Bar graphs. Bar graphs. Table of contents. Sharing information. Information or data is all around us. We can find it in books, newspapers, on television, and on the internet. People communicate or share data with others through photographs, words, and drawings. A lot of data can be found in the books and computers in your school library. Graphs and charts. Graphs and charts are types of drawings that share data using lines, shapes, and colors. Graphs sort and organize data that has been collected. It is easier to understand numbers and words when they are in the form of a graph. Graphs make it easier to compare information or track changes over time. Different graphs. There are many different kinds of graphs. Bar graphs, line graphs, and picture graphs are the most common kinds. Each kind of graph is used to show different kinds of information. Bar graphs. In this book, you'll learn all about bar graphs. Bar graphs compare information like a picture graph, but instead of using pictures, bar graphs show the information using colored bars of different kinds. So here we have the seasons: winter, spring, summer, and fall. Here we have the temperature in degrees in Fahrenheit from 0 to 100. And the topic is New York City's average temperatures in each season. Bar graphs can also be used to show larger changes over time. Bar graphs. All bar graphs include the same main parts. Each part has a different job that helps you read and understand the graph. Knowing the different parts will help you create your own bar graphs. So we have the scale. The scale is the range of numbers that is marked on an axis. The y-axis is a line that runs up on the side, the y-axis. The x-axis is a line that runs along the bottom of the graph. The axis labels give information about the facts shown on the graph, such as the number and the type of data being compared. So kinds of foods and number of food items sold, those are labels. The categories shows what each bar represents. So categories here are fruit cups, cupcakes, cookies, and muffins. The bars show the data. The longer bars represent larger numbers. The title of a bar graph tells readers what information is being shown on the graph. Food sold at the school bake sale is the title here. Same and different. The same data can be shown in two different ways on a bar graph. The data can be displayed on a vertical bar graph, like this one, or a horizontal bar graph, like this one. On a vertical bar graph, the bars go up and down. Horizontal bar graphs have the bars going from side to side. So vertical bar graph, horizontal bar graph. Horizontal and vertical. On a vertical bar graph, the categories or things being compared are listed on the x-axis. The y-axis contains the scale. On a horizontal bar graph, the y-axis contains the categories and the x-axis has the scale. Horizontal bar graphs are often used when the categories have long labels. Collecting data. Maya Williams is a grade 2 student. Her teacher, Mrs. O'Connor, told her class that for the next 2 weeks, the school's grade 2 and 3 classes will be selling flowers to raise money for new computers in the library. The class that sells the most flowers gets to go on a field trip of their choice at the end of the year. Tally charts. Maya really wants to win the contest because she loves going on field trips. After the first week, Maya wanted to see whether her class was ahead. She found out how many flowers each class had sold so far and marked them on the tally chart using tally marks. So numbers of flowers sold. Mrs. O'Connor's grade 2 class, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Mr. Decker's grade 2 class, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Mrs. Funk's grade 3 class, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And Mr. Bauer's grade 3 class, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Maya organized the tally marks into groups of 5 so they're easier to count. So that's a group of 5. Creating a bar graph. Maya wanted to share the data she collected with the rest of the class. She decided the easiest way to show her data and compare the results was to create a graph. She decided to draw a vertical bar graph. She began by adding the title and drawing a line for the x-axis and a line for the y-axis. So the title is Flower Contest. The x-axis right here shows the classes. The y-axis shows the number of flowers sold. Maya added labels on the x-axis and y-axis. She also added categories listing the grade 2 and grade 3 classes on the x-axis. Scale. Maya now needed to determine the scale of the y-axis. To determine the scale, Maya looked at the largest and smallest numbers on her tally chart. 10 was the largest, and 6 was the smallest. She decided the scale where the numbers went up by 2, it would make the graph the easiest to read. So she started the scale at 0. Each number she added to the axis was 2 more than the one below it. 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Maya added marks to the y-axis that were about the same distance apart for the number of flowers sold. Adding the data. Next, Maya added the data to her graph. Maya drew a bar in the shape of a rectangle for each of the 4 classes on her tally chart. The top of each bar lined up with the number on the scale that matched the amount of flowers that each class sold. Mr. Decker's class sold 5 flowers. Maya put the top of that bar between a 4 and a 5 marks on the scale. Using Maya's graph, which class has sold the most flowers so far? That would be Mrs. Bauer's grade 3 class. Is Maya's class winning? Nope, because Mrs. O'Connor's grade 2 class is in blue right here, so they have not sold the most. Colored bars. Sometimes the bars on bar graphs are different colors to make the data easier to read. The same colors can be used to show data with the same amounts or to highlight certain groups or features. So in this graph, the bars for Mrs. O'Connor's class and Mrs. Funk's class are the same color because they both sold 6 flowers. In this graph, the same color bars are used to highlight the grade 2 and grade 3 classes. So grade 2 are in blue, grade 3 are in green. Which graph below makes it easier to find the total amount of flowers the grade 2 classes sold? That would be this one because you can add the two blue ones together. The final results. Based on Maya's graph, her class knew they were tied for second place. After the first week of flower sales, this data showed them that they needed to try and sell more flowers in the second week in order to win. After the 2 weeks were over, Mrs. O'Connor gave the class the tally chart below with the final results. So Mrs. O'Connor's class had 5, 10, 15, 16. Mr. Decker's grade 2 class had 5, 10, 11, 12. Mrs. Funk's class had 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And Mr. Bauer's class had 5, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So Mrs. O'Connor's class sold the most flowers. Which bar graph on this page 19 shows the correct results from the tally chart on page 18? Did Mrs. O'Connor's class win the contest? So it's a little bit hard to see because the writing is really small. But this one, they all show that Mrs. O'Connor's class sold about 16 flowers. It's between 15 and 18. Did Mrs. O'Connor's class win the class contest? Yes, they did. So Mrs. O'Connor's had about 5, 10, 15, 16. Mr. Decker's class had 12. This is not quite 12. This is 12. And this is not 12. So number 1 is out. So it could be 2 or 3. Mrs. Funk's grade 3 class had 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 9. This bar is close to the 9. And so is this one. So it could still be 2 or 3 that are correct. Mr. Bauer's class had 5, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So here the yellow bar goes close to 14. And here it does too. So these two look correct. Number 2 and 3 look like they're correct. One is vertical graph, the other one is the horizontal graph, but they both show the same data. And those are the final results. So now they're going to choose a trip. Maya and her classmates are happy to find out they won the contest. Now they get to choose a place to go on their field trip. Mrs. O'Connor gives the class 4 places to choose from. She takes a survey of the class to find out where everyone wants to go. The place with the most votes is where the class will go on their trip. So they have the choice between a science center, the zoo, the dinosaur museum, or the aquarium. Now it's your turn. Create your own bar graph using the results from Mrs. O'Connor's survey found in the tally chart below. There is a science center, 5 votes, the zoo, 5, 10, 11 votes, the dinosaur museum, 5, 6, 7, 8 votes, and the aquarium has 3 votes. So if you'd like to, you can build your own bar graph, vertical or horizontal, to be able to show all those results in the graph. So this is the book, Bar Graphs.